Representative Dean, thank you for being with us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So can you tell our viewers what issues are of interest and focus for you?
There are so many, but I will highlight one that I highlight all the time, and that's gun violence. Every year in this country, 2 years ago, it was 33,000 people died of gun violence. I don't know if you saw this, but last year it was actually 40,000 people. We had a terrible spike in gun violence in this country in the last 12 months. 40,000 people died of gun violence, more than half to suicide, and another 80,000 people are literally wounded, caught in the crossfire. So this is just a monstrous problem that we must do something about. Government must pass legislation to save lives.
And government has been at a bit of a standstill. Can you talk to us about your thoughts around the longest government shutdown in U.S. history?
Well, it was very strange to be sworn in, and the very first day I was sworn in, we were in shutdown. And we were immediately voting. The Democratic majority in the House passed legislation after legislation to open up government. To me, it was absolutely a shameful episode. It caused immeasurable harm to federal workers, to their families. I met with many of them who said their children were afraid, that they had overheard mommy and daddy, worried about paying the bills, worried about going to work as an air traffic controller and not being paid. But the ripple effect in this economy, I think it was just a shameful episode. May it never, ever happen again. We must not govern by tantrum because we will then have to live by that.
And the question I've been asking is, of course, we know the deadline is February 15th. It could happen again. What would you all be willing to compromise?
I think we've always talked about border security, and we've always funded border security, so I don't think it actually is going to require compromise. What we won't do is go for a vanity wall that will not make anybody safer, and in fact will really send up a signal that is demeaning. We are for smart border security. You know, another issue I care an awful lot about is our opioid epidemic. Last year, 72,000 people died of overdose. Those drugs, many of those drugs, are coming in not across a desert or across our southern border, but through ports of entry. What we need to do is fund really smart technology that will discover those drugs embedded in cargo. So I think that's where we're going to find common ground, which is we want border security, smart border security, along with everything else that government has to do to keep us safe.
And you mentioned this was kind of an odd circumstance to be sworn in under, but you were also known as part of a Fab Four. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, it was exciting. In Pennsylvania, I don't know if you know this, Pennsylvania, before the election of 2018, we had no women serving in Congress. The last woman was Allison Schwartz, my friend and mentor, but that was 4 years earlier. So 4 of us were running. We called ourselves the Fab Four. We did some joint events under the theory that a rising tide lifts all boats, and women helping women worked. And people loved it. So Chrissy Houlihan, Mary Gay Scanlon, Susan Wild, and I ran, and we all won. And so now the Pennsylvania delegation looks a whole lot different.
And to wrap up, what would you say to folks who may be considering, women who may be considering running?
Run. That's what I say. Absolutely. Get involved. Meet up with folks. Go to town halls. Meet candidates. Work on a campaign. Look for a mentor. It's just get involved. This is a place for everybody, and most especially we have to have more women and greater diversity. That's how we'll actually solve problems in a much more productive way.
Thank you so much for your time.